We have a really exciting panel up next because I know we all want to make some money. That is the dream, right? Okay, so we are going to be talking about how to monetize your expertise while leveraging media. Tracy Lamb is our moderator here, hosting the panel, and we are speaking with Dr. Christopher Liu, Glenn Hobart. Hi. Thank you so much.
All right, well, thank you so much. We are excited to be here today, and thank you everybody for attending. My name, like she said, is Tracy Lamb. I am the CEO and founder of Caregiving Worldwide Network. It is a television network. And I'm going to let everybody go down the line and just kind of introduce themselves and the name of their podcast and what they do.
I'm Glenn Hebert, and I sold it last year. I'm the founder of the Horse Radio Network. We started in 2006. We have 40 shows about horses, and I host Horses in the Morning, which is one of the longest running daily podcasts in the world. We're an hour and a half every day for the last 14 years, 3,350 episodes. So.
I've read about you.
Hey guys, I'm Dr. Christopher Liu, and for all the guests on my show, I always say all my friends call me Chris, so please do the same. And I'm a physician by training, ortho. I retired 8 years ago, and founder and CEO of Financial Freedom for Physicians, and we are a digital media platform that is dedicated to raising awareness about financial literacy and financial empowerment, independence among the healthcare community. So podcasting is one arm, and as we've heard previously, there's different arms, so that's one. We've got a YouTube channel, blog, and we're all over socials. And I'm happy to explain how we monetize that.
Hey, my name is JJ Elliott Hill, and I am one of 3 sisters that founded Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver. Yesterday was our 1-year anniversary, and we've had 100 episodes so far. We talk about caregiving and how we are reluctant caregivers. It's not that we don't want to care, but it is a very difficult job. Podcasting is, just like Chris said, it is one arm of our brand. We have multiple social media sites, blogs, and a couple other different arms for our business.
So we wanted to start off with asking the question, how does each person here monetize their business? Because everybody kind of does it in a different way, and everybody kind of has a different thing that they're doing. Because I'm in TV, I do have sponsors. So I got into TV about a year ago. I didn't have sponsors a year ago, but I do now. And, it has been a journey. Getting sponsors is a challenge at times, if you're not used to asking for money. Definitely you have to I've been able to connect with somebody who is used to doing that now, somebody who's actually in media marketing, and so they're helping me to kind of navigate that journey, just simply because that's something that I've never done. But for me, that's been what's been able to help me monetize my business, is to get sponsors, and then I also have a couple of other ways that I'm trying to work on doing that, because you want to try and have more than one revenue stream. If at all possible, but so that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, so the monetization revenue model for the business has been actually undergone several transitions. So the first was selling my 4 books and my courses and consulting and coaching, and eventually it's transitioned from a B2C model to more of a B2B model. So that's through sponsorships. It's grown tremendously through the viewership, and so that attracts, corporate sponsors, businesses looking to get their name out there. And most recently, been using dynamic ad placement through either Google or through Spotify. That's been really fruitful. And one thing, this is a kind of a plug. I've been using the platform Podmatch which matches hosts and guests together, and it's a much more efficient way to find guests and to get on the podcast, and they're much more better vetted. And so for each guest that you complete, Podmatch gives you a payout as well. So that's been kind of my model. We'll talk about vetting brands and sponsors, because in the beginning I was taking a lot of sponsorships, but they didn't really align to the core mission or value. So I had to kind of cut away from that and only go with sponsors that really resonate with the audience, to protect the audience, their interests as well. So we can talk about that.
So when we started, it was really important that we set up our brand, which that's what we believe we have, and that has to go along with our podcast. Our goals are to relate, educate, inspire, and laugh. It's for us, we started setting up our brand and then our marketing package. We don't go with the typical monetization when we talk about the number of views, the smaller dollar amounts. We focus on sponsorships and partnerships. And so marketing packages for us are really professional, visual to send out to large corporations has been the way that we've approached our monetization in year one. We've been really blessed to partner up with larger companies like Norwegian Cruise Line, Wounded Warrior, AARP. We've partnered also with UK Health Radio. We say image is everything, and most of the time it's, perception is what's out there. Really, it's perception. But that's been a big part of it for us because it's our story. We don't have PhD or MD after our name, but we have a story that tells about our mom's 20-year experience with Parkinson's for 20 years. And so that's how we've focused. We partner with a lot of people, and I say partner, and that is we don't take funds from them. What we do take is, for example, we have a Heroes Caring for Heroes series that came out in November. Partners were, for example, AARP and the Wounded Warrior Elizabeth Dole. That type of in-kind donation where you partner with someone, our visibility from them, with them tagging us, with them being partners and us sharing their logos, you can't put a value on that. What that got us to in year one is we've had about 500,000, it's almost 500,000 downloads and listens on our podcast. And so that's really important, is to definitely vet those sponsors and partners for us.
I'm really curious about that. So how were you able to secure those partnerships?
So if my sister Natalie were here, she's a stalker. She calls it polite persistence. You'll find her and she's going to be talking. She's going to be running her mouth tomorrow. She's going to be in sequence, so get ready. Be fearless. On LinkedIn, the way we got NCL was she just right up, send him I want to connect with you. And that's what we do. And you tell them what your mission is. The key thing, whatever your mission is, be authentic. And that's why he connected with us. For us, the key for David Herrera, the CEO, was that he had a caregiving story. Whatever you do, if you have a passion for it, tell your story. Don't try to be too official. We sent David a message today because we're continuing that partnership. And we didn't answer a question in a meeting the way we wanted to yesterday. We wanted to give him more information. And so this morning we sent him a picture, but we also sent the CEO of Norwegian a selfie because he knows that's us. And so just be authentic.
So I'm almost the exact opposite of you, actually, which is good. So I had been doing this before podcasting was a thing, and early on, there were no rules. In the 2008 time, there's still no rules in podcasting, to be honest, but we kind of made it up as we went, and I knew we needed sponsors. We had no listeners, by the way, at that point. We got our first sponsor when we had 12 listeners, and then a year later, we had a couple hundred. And by the way, that sponsor, 14 years later, is still our biggest sponsor, has never missed a month in 14 years. She now sponsors 4 shows. And she'll say, she spends $1 million a year in advertising for her products. Not with us, I wish. But we get a piece of that. And she still says today that the biggest response she's gotten of all the advertising she's done, magazines, everything she's done, social media, is from my listening audience. And because they're the active engaged ones. It was in retail for a long time. 20% of people in retail will buy 80% of the product. It's the same in podcasting. 20% of your audience will be your most engaged. They also happen to be the 20% in retail that buy things. They're active, engaged listeners. So what we can show in podcasting is results. We don't have the numbers. We survive on advertising and also Patreon, our listener support. We don't have the numbers for CPM to even work. So years ago, when everybody was saying, you get paid $35 per 1,000 downloads, I'm going, well, I'm never going to make a living doing this. Because I don't have that kind of downloads. So we started a flat rate model years ago. And I think I was one of the first ones to speak about it. So, right now we get $400 to $500 per ad, and we only have low thousands of downloads per episode, but those people buy stuff. They buy things. So my people are more valuable than if it was a million of people who don't buy stuff. So I think you have, what we did, I think, was we went after the middle to smaller companies because they were the ones looking for an affordable alternative to the $10,000 for a magazine ad. And we offered the alternative, but ours worked better. So they hung around, and we still have them today. So we did, I wish we could have gotten Norwegian and, some of those at the beginning. It would have been great, and I admire you for doing that.
Profitable.
Doesn't mean any of us are profitable.
Okay, so our next question that we wanted to answer is, for me, honestly, I have surrounded myself with a really great team. And then I really believe in networking. Everybody who knows me knows that I love networking. And I'm not only local networking, but national networking. So I do a lot of my business development through that. I do a lot of business development through like gold to me, honestly. So I've done a lot of that. But I've connected with some really great people now that are really, really helping lift me up and really helping me get connected to some really great things. So I think for me, business development is all about, getting to the right people to be connected to them, to be able to get yourself lifted up. Honestly, when I first started 5 years ago, I had no idea what I was doing. I will be totally honest. Probably didn't know what I was doing for a long time, even a year ago or even the last 6 months. But the reality is for me, I've always gone after people that I wanted to contact with. I don't let them come to me. I pursue them. It's kind of like what JJ said. I'm persistent. And one of the things that my dad taught me a long time ago was never be afraid to ask. All they can say is no, and if they say no, but at least you ask. And so I've kind of lived by that mantra, and that's basically the way that I've kind of built my business. Is I've just asked the question. That's how I got TV. I asked the question. I said, "There's nothing about caregiving. I'd like to do something. Is there any way possible we could even do it?" I mean, they could have easily said no. It's going to cost you $250,000, and that would have been okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I'm going to leave. But that wasn't the answer that I got. But if I had never asked the question, then I would never have been able to do even what I'm doing today. So for me, you have to ask the question.
The polite persistence, she just walked in the back if you want to wave. Much like Tracy, it is just asking. We do a lot on LinkedIn, so that would be our business model for really getting connected with people, is being very responsive. And just like Tracy said, you won't get a yes unless you ask. And you need to really right off the bat expect to fail because you won't succeed unless you ask. And so we're fearless. We just ask and continue to make changes to your model. Don't think your model is perfect. I think that's another big part of our growth. Continue to make changes and continue to add new avenues. And again, if that avenue fails, Patreon for us didn't work. We let it run for 2 months. We didn't feel that it was right for our business model because we don't want to charge any caregiver for a service. We shut it down. We just didn't like it. So
it's interesting because pre-COVID, a lot of my business development was in person, so through speaking engagements and through conferences such as this. And then the 2020, 2021 was just all virtual, learn how to use Zoom, StreamYard, live streams. And then now it's kind of like 60-40, 60 more like the platforms. For a lot of us, it's LinkedIn or Facebook. And just connecting through there, just like the previous panelist said, just ask. Usually 9 out of 10 times you get a no, but then that 1 out of 10 they say yes. So just be persistent and keep adding value through content creation. And one thing that was interesting is I had a guest on my podcast the other day, and he was saying that just social media is like a tool. So it's not, we talked about vanity metrics, but it's actually a way that you can actually, he uses it to start conversations with other people. And through those conversations, he makes connections, and it can lead to partnerships, lead to clients and a lot of different things. So really, I think in today's age with technology, these platforms are really, really powerful. They can leverage, time, distance, space, and you can make those connections much faster.
We 90% of the advertisers I'm going to take this two ways. 90% of the advertisers that we have been done in person at trade shows. I learned early on, everybody didn't know of Dave Jackson's School of Podcasting. Dave Jackson always says, go to where your listeners are. So early on, we started going to the trade shows, wholesalers meet retailers. We became the official, by the way, we're the official podcast of the trade show now. We do their podcast. And I just talk to people in person, every vendor there. And what we did is the soft sell, and this really works for us. We walked up and said, do you have a brand new product? We'd like to introduce it to the audience. Tell us about your new product. We would put it on the air, we would follow up with them, and then they would get a response from that time they were on the air, and then they would go, well, can you send us your ad package? So we did the very soft sell that way, and it works for us, and it still works today. During COVID, it was actually tougher for us because in person is where 90% of our advertising comes from. And it's still, that has never changed, right? We all think social media has changed things, but meeting people today and in person, you're going to remember those people more than you did if you met them on Zoom. So the other thing about development is, does anybody here have a network of podcasts? So we have one. When part of our business development is new shows. And the way we have 50 hosts now. Every one of those hosts we acquired through an audition that they didn't know they were having. We have them on as guests on one of our other shows first. We have an idea that we would like them as a host, but we have them on as a guest. We don't tell them that they're auditioning. I can tell in 2 minutes on the air whether they're going to be a good host or not. So, because sometimes you meet a person, somebody in person, and they're dynamic and they're great, and you get them on the air and they just suck. It was terrible. And you go, well, I would have pegged them as being terrific. And you get them on the air and they're not. And you can't change that. They are. And then you meet other people who are just dry. When you meet them in person, they get on the air and the light bulb comes on and they're terrific. That's how you can truly tell if you're building a network who your good hosts are going to be. Have them on as a guest first, and then follow up with them after you determine whether they're going to be any good or not. That's part of how we do our development of our shows. We target the vertical we want to cover, and then we try and find hosts to cover that vertical. And we do that through having them as guests on other shows.
So the next question was, how does each person use AI for marketing?
Are you going to save us here?
Well, it's interesting because I'm fascinated with just general purpose technologies, and something as transformative as AI can really change the way creators and the way podcasters can reach their audiences and get their message out. So most recently, I've been using AI using ChatGPT, and ChatGPT's really cut down in terms of cost, efficiency, savings. I used to pay tens of thousands for editors. Now all my video editing and all of my viral reel editing is used through AI. So just to give you an example, my first year of podcasting, I put out 100 episodes. It was really tedious, back and forth. And then last year I put out 500 episodes using AI. So it's incredible just how rapidly you can scale both quality and quantity of content. So you don't want to ever sacrifice quality for quantity, but if you can scale both, you can have that much greater impact. And so, bringing it back to AI, if you can create content that can, potentially reach millions, that can actually generate, revenue in terms of views, Google ads, through dynamic advertising placements, all of that. And it actually brings me back to what Glenn was saying was AI can actually, reach millions, but maybe like 0.1%, actually purchase a product or become a client. So you actually want to go deep. You want to go vertical. So that's with podcasting, email list, newsletters, things that have a smaller audience, but the audience is really vetted and they're engaged and they want to purchase. So you kind of use those two avenues, go deep, and then you also go horizontal. So that's kind of in terms of software, what I use Opus Clip AI and it basically takes a entire video and it can create 20 30-second to 1-minute clips for YouTube or TikTok, and it's they have a score as to how likely it is to go viral. So, and if I said, if you can, it takes maybe 10 minutes to just create those clips, and if you can put that out and get hundreds of thousands of views, that's really beneficial for your business. So yeah, it's called the Opus Clip, and it's OPUS, and it's Opus Clip. And then the other editing software that I use for my Zoom and StreamYard videos is called WiseCut. So they were here last year at Podfest, and it's really a fast way to edit out your videos, and it can do it in different languages. It can create clips, and so check that out as well. So, and then ChatGPT. So those three things, significant, cut my cost by 90%, and increase my output, 7x. So definitely check those out.
We actually don't do a lot with AI for marketing. We use it more for content, especially for our daily show. It's 90 minutes 5 days a week. So content is something that we're always looking for, especially after doing it for 14 years. So AI actually helps us with our research. We use it as a research tool for content. Now, we're not reading it, we're not reading what they wrote. We are using what they wrote and the sources that the AI used to further research it, but it saves us a ton of time. So if we're talking about a particular horse in history or something like that, we can get started with AI. That would have taken us an hour to do that research that AI did for us in 2 seconds, and now we can take their sources and dig a little deeper. So we're using it basically for content development.
I think I'll say AI and show notes. So that is like a game changer when you talk about efficiency. A lot of those, I'm not going to repeat those, several of those items that Chris mentioned, but a big part of it definitely is the efficiency. We use it for a lot of keywords. I know we've talked about with our episodes, so that it increases our downloads because people can find an episode that's really meaningful. Pulling out the words like Parkinson's or spousal caregiver or different things, it helps to really point people to the right episode so they don't get on an episode that's not meaningful for them. But AI is something that we are learning more about. I learned something today. I was really excited. Always been learning.
And I will bring up one more that my team has talked about that they use briefly. Is one called InVideo. InVideo is actually, you can give a short detail of what you want. Like I put in, a caregiver video with kindness, and literally it pulls images. It will give you a 2-minute full video with images, with talking. You can determine if you want it to be a YouTube short. You can determine if you want a female voice, if you want a male voice. It's really, really interesting and can be really powerful. So, all right, so our fourth question was, what was one of your first steps for monetization? So for me personally, my biggest one that has helped me more than anything else, honestly, is I now have a chief media marketing officer who has been in media marketing, his own media marketing agency for like 20 years. So that has helped a lot for me, because honestly, for me, especially being in TV, it's a completely, as he told me, it's a completely different realm than just kind of regular marketing. I've done a lot of regular marketing in my life, but doing media marketing can be very different, especially in the TV realm, and I really needed somebody that understood that, and that was totally out of my scope. So that's basically kind of what I did. But
so most of you are probably in the area I am, where you have smaller shows and niches that the audience is important, right? And they're the key people, but you're never going to have 1 million downloads. It's just not going to happen. But you can still do very well. But the thing we forget when we're out talking to potential sponsors is they're not buying the show. They're buying you. Remember, your listeners come for the content and they stay for the host. They're not hanging around your show if they don't like you. If they think you're terrible, they're not listening to the next episode. It's the same with the sponsors. They're buying you. You're the thing that they're investing in. It's the reason I was able to get sponsors early is they believed in me. They didn't believe in the show. They didn't really know what podcasting was. So when you're out there talking to whoever, remember, and this is hard for some of us hosts to realize because we have a little bit of insecurity around that, a little bit of imposter syndrome, but your show is you. It's not your guests. They may come for your guests, but they're coming back for you. So keep that in mind when you're out there selling whatever, marketing, doing whatever. Your listeners are there for you. You're their friend. You don't know them, but they know you. And you're their friend. So keep that in mind when you're out there. It's the best lesson I could ever teach a host is they're there for you. You're the reason that this show exists, and you're the reason people keep coming back. And that includes your sponsors.
My strategy for monetization right away was just get started. I didn't overthink it. I didn't try to make everything perfect all at once. I took a long-term growth-minded approach. And so what I did was if I could get it 80 to 90% great, I would get it out, just get the content out there. The listeners are more interested in the content and the information. And, you can work with the thumbnails and the sound quality, all of that. You can improve over time. So to just get started, that was the number one way, is just do that. The other thing is this idea of progress over perfection. And so just, think of it in terms of just iterate, learn the technology and get it integrated into your workflows, and just start creating and start getting it out there, start sharing it, start collaborating. So that's my number one. If you're actually interested in like specific monetization strategy or tactics, as Sabrina talked about earlier, and so, the easiest way is if you don't have a product or service quite yet, partner with other people with similar backgrounds and interests. Affiliate marketing is one of the easiest ways. You can basically sell what other people have and take a cut or commission. That's like the easiest way. But always remember, have your own brand. Books, could be courses, could be memberships, all of these different things. Own your own email list, own your own channels, and have a omni-channel, multi-channel approach. So that's my recommendation.
I think my answer would be decide if you want to just do a podcast as a hobby, or you need to decide if you want to do it as a full-time job. We decided that we were going to go big or go home. That was our decision. And again, we had our 1-year anniversary yesterday, but on our first podcast, we dropped 10 episodes on that day. We actually taunted Joe Rogan, and our slogan, our hashtag was make caregiving. We didn't beat Joe Rogan, just in case y'all want to know. But we taunted him, we hashtagged him, you better believe that. So that was our decision. Our goal is to quit our day jobs, because Natalie and I both have, all of us, my sister Emily as well, we all have corporate jobs. And so, but our goal, and we know what our exit plan is, we all want to talk about our end game. Well, our end game is that we want our brand to be actually a business for us. As far as monetizing, it's just our first step is to create that brand. When people see our brand, they know that it's the sisters, it's the Elliott sisters, and they know that we're caregivers. And around that, we'll build a strategy and something that our goal is to relate, educate, and inspire and laugh. And our goal, really, our mission is to change the world, one person, one family, one community at a time.
Question was, what's the end game and strategy for each of us? JJ just gave hers, and mine is to change each caregiver one episode at a time, because I'm creating 5 years this year, and hopefully we'll be able to double that by next year. So, my goal is to just, I worked for hospice for 14 years, and I really have a heart for caregiving. And so I know what it's like to be in the space, and I really want to help as many people as I possibly can.
I sold the company last year, so I think I hit that. In another couple of years, I'll maybe be cut back a little bit. But, that was my end game, and I'm happy to say it again.
If someone comes up to me and says, "Oh, Chris, I love your podcast. I love the content. I love the quality of guests," then that makes my day. And this year, I've really shifted more away from monetization and more towards building community. And I love, like I said, I have a podcast to actually interview people that are interesting to me so that I can learn for myself. It's kind of a selfish MO, but it's also to give back and to share it with people. And so if people can listen and say, "Oh, I love your content, it's changed me," or gives me a new insight, inspiration, that's and then basically build an audience and build a community and make it all win-win.
So my question for the panel is, I had somebody tell me, instead of asking people directly, like, would you sponsor me? Instead of saying it that verbiage, they said, go ask people that you know that are a good compliment for your podcast. Do you know of anybody that would like to sponsor this podcast? Because they think you'll get much more of a response to that. What do you all think with that? Should we just ask them directly, or should we ask them like?
Yes, all of that. Seriously, all of that. You do everything you can. You have them on as, we've had lots of people on as guests that we had hoped would become sponsors, and they got a reaction from the interview. Ask them directly. It's all of that.
It kind of goes back to guesting, because in my early days when I was trying to find guests for the podcast, I would actually reach out to guests directly, and that's sometimes, a lot of times, it's hit or miss. And once you find the community, it kind of grows organically. So now I have 3 or 4 guests pitch me to come onto the podcast, and it's the same thing with sponsors. You know, when you're first starting out, people will sometimes pitch you, and you have to pitch them. But this idea of do you know somebody that would be a good sponsor or be a good guest is actually a really good strategy, because it's almost like a warm introduction, and probably your success rate would probably be much higher.
We're very specific on who we go after because we want them to be people that we like to believe in their brand. So that's one of the big things for us. But where we are now, as you grow, there will be people that pursue you for sponsorship because your brands they complement one another.
Can I leave with one thing?
Yep.
It's not who you know, it's who knows you. Everybody always got that saying backwards. It's who knows you. And because of podcasting, they're going to know you. And that changes the dynamic.
Thank you. We have another question.
So one of the things that I just wanted to kind of mention when you're talking about providing the host, it can also be, I've been in marketing and media for such a long, long time. And we used to say, and I used to work in television, you're selling an audience.
Yep.
So that's also, you know, especially if you're doing something very niche.
Yep.
So that sponsor, he wants to reach those people in that niche.
Yep.
Even if you don't have, you're hitting the right people, you're not hitting the masses. And in other marketing, you can always, television news is going to be this amount of, at the end of the day, it is such a niche.
People addition. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Going once, going